Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's percolating. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning to the people on Facebook. Good morning to the people on IG. Good morning to the people on the YouTube. Good morning to the people on LinkedIn and Twitter too. Percolating.
Get a vibe, stay ready.
Truth in the cup, keep it strong, keep it steady.
Pull up a chair, yeah. Take me sipping with me.
Good morning, good people. Java with Jimmy. Good
Morning. Good morning.
Yeah, the love percolating.
Vibe percolating.
Java with Jimmy. Good morning, morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah, the love.
Vibe percolating.
Yeah,
Java with
Jimmy.
Good morning.
Morning.
Percolating.
Yeah, we in it.
Yeah, we in it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Java with Jimmy.
Percolating.
Yeah, we in it.
Yeah, we in it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Java with Jimmy.
Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Today is, just with me in the dates. Today is Thursday, March 12th, 2026, and you're in the Java Cafe this morning. It is Thankful Thursday. However, we are going to, we're chatting with a good brother that is not a stranger to the Java Cafe. Worked with him way before a Java, most notably around the difference the DA makes a few years ago when we got Rachel Rollins elected as the DA and changed a lot when it comes to legal system reforms and things like that. I'm definitely thankful to have him here. He is the leader of one of two organizations that since the week before MLK weekend, a lot of Black Boston was taken aback by some of the actions of the Wu administration. And it led to a lot of conversations. And I will say a lot of the conversations initially were what I refer to often here as pundit strategists and operatives, people that the political nerds, the activists, those that are always in this space and group threads and things like that. And there was a lot of chatter about where are the organizations. And when I say of old, the Urban League, the NAACP, and a couple of others were known for coalescing, bringing together Black leadership, and then speaking truth to power. Now, let me be perfectly clear. I'm not saying that that is not being done, especially by this individual, but I reached out to him in his role as leading the Urban League based on when the chatter left operatives, strategists, and the folks that are in this space. And there were conversations around, okay, but where's this organization? And they used to do that. So we're going to talk about that. Yes. And we're also going to talk about a lot of things that the Urban League is doing. Most notably, there's an event this evening at 6 p.m. So Brother Rahsaan will tell us about that as well. So without further ado, we call him Bishop Political. Calvin Feliciano and I started that. What was that, 2020, brother? Or what? No, that was back that was like around 17, 18, around the DA's race, right? Okay. Welcome to the Java Cafe. You are not a stranger here. And we're welcoming the bow tie. Good morning, Brother Rahsaan. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. I had a Java last night, and yeah, 54 kicks in when you're up late and doing things, but I'm good. I'm good.
It hits different, right?
It hits very different. Very different. They
it
say that
remind it reminds me of Paid in Full when my man got shot. He's like, "Look at me, man. I'm moving different. I'm breathing different. I got shot in the head, B. It's 54. I'm moving different. I'm breathing different."
I'm walking different. I go up the stairs different. I carry groceries different. Man,
Saying,
listen, I know your time is a little bit limited because you're doing things over there at the Urban League. So let's jump right in. First of all, I have to ask Rahsaan. I want to publicly and personally thank you because when I reached out, we talked about it in reference to the Urban League and the NAACP. You're here only to speak on behalf of the Urban League. But we're human, and God knows in the last 6 years I've experienced this. We can't help but sometimes when either there's critique or maybe a lack of full understanding of other folks about things that we're doing or not doing or whatever. And as a human, sometimes you just sit and may ask yourself, Jesus, what the heck? And I'm out here and we're doing. So I have to ask you, with that being said, as Rahsaan, respectfully, how you doing?
I'm well.
That's
I'm good. Thank you for asking. And more importantly, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you and your listeners. I think you have raised some critical issues and concerns, and the community deserves to hear from me, whether it's in my individual capacity or as the head of the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts. So thank you. But I'm well. Family's good. Health is good. Despite the condition of the world.
and that is another conversation maybe I can have you come back and chat with us about, because I was thinking this morning as we heard that the new regime leader over in Iran made a statement, and it was indicated that I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but that area that holds up a lot, people have said that we have not felt the worst. We haven't seen the worst of impact. Gas is going to go up, oil and food and things like that. And so it is, as you said, despite what's going on in the world, I'm glad to hear that you're good. But there's going to be a lot of work to do outside of the topic, that we're getting ready to talk about. So I'm glad that you're good. I'll ask you to give us another word. At present, how would you describe the state of Black Boston in whatever context you want to answer that? One word for the state of Black Boston.
Yeah, challenged but strong. So it's not
That's
one word,
free.
but
I know.
it's
You're a preacher too, so you get that literary privilege.
uh-huh.
Challenged but strong. All right, give me the context for that, sir. And if I could ask you, if we could kind of speak in the context of things post, P3 being a facade of generations and decades of systemic constraints and structures. And so if we can chat sort of in that piece, when you say challenged but strong, give us some context for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that there's been this ongoing conversation about Black political power in Boston. When you look at cities like Detroit or New York or Chicago or DC, you look and or Charlotte, and you look and you see a Black political class that is and Black power brokers that are able to leverage their position and get benefits for their community in a way that we have not similarly seen in Boston. And, for a city that was at one point 24% Black, there's this massive outmigration of Black people. I live in Brockton, and the influx of folks over the last 2 decades to Brockton because they can't afford to live in Boston is significant. And the impact that has is there is a drain on some of the potential Black political financial infrastructure to leverage power. And so that's what I mean when I say challenged. You can imagine a scenario where something like P3 wouldn't dare happen because of a fear or concern of transgressing the Black community, and whether or not the decision was made purely on practical financial reasons, or whether the decision was made out of maligned interests or malice to harm the Black community specifically. It's probably somewhere in the middle of disregard for the community, which is evidenced by the way it was rolled out, and kind of as a result of the lack of needing to respond because there haven't been political consequences for people who have disregarded the Black community. And there are, a myriad of reasons why that is. Some of it, as you in your opening, it can be attributed to these historic civil rights organizations, and how our presence, how our muscle has been flexed or not flexed, the organizing power, the financial backing of political candidates, but also business interests in the city, the lack of a mainstream, mainline press outlet, or Black radio, Black television. There are outlets like yours that exist. There's the Bay State Banner, but what is the reach and what is the influence that they have? So I think that's why it is challenged, and not to say that there is some utopian Black haven that exists somewhere in the United States where Black people run everything and they're not confronted with the challenges of structural racism and white supremacy, or financial mismanagement, or it's complicated wherever you go. But there are certainly some places where Black people have a greater amount of political power and are able to leverage more for the people in their communities. But at the core of it here in Boston, there are still strong organizations, strong individuals. There are people who are doing great work in community outside of kind of the ordination of a historical nonprofit or organization. So there are things that have happened in Boston because of the history and legacy of advocacy. There is despite the out-migration of a lot of Black people, there is a significant in-migration of people who are coming here for jobs, for schooling, for other opportunities. So challenged, but strong.
In that context, and I can't have you here and you talk about the migration, that when you talk about Black political power, people leaving, people coming, one of the outcomes of that is a lot of our migrant brothers and sisters have come in to Boston. Most recently, there's a lot of chatter for support and some level of pushback around the $4+ million that's been dedicated to our migrant community to support them based on what's going on nationally. In this conversation, Rahsaan, FBA, Foundational Black American, and outside of that, the rest of the Black diaspora, can you just speak to a little bit about unify and on a more 50,000-foot level, not just this particular situation, but how do you respond to this unfortunate, what I see is valid concern, but sometimes it can lead to more divisiveness when we talk about foundational Black Americans, Caribbean, Afro-Latino. I don't know if it's helpful when it comes to either political power, numbers, things like that. How do you respond to that? A little off topic, but I think it is important when you talk about Black.
Yeah, I mean, I have always challenged the notion of a monolithic Black community, right? That Boston is 24% Black. Does that include Cape Verdeans? Does that include Afro-Latinos who are Dominican or from Panama? Does that include biracial people who have one white parent? How do we define Black? And because if it's foundational, so-called foundational Black Americans, does that mean that no one in your family line is from Haiti, is from Barbados, all the Bajans out here? No one in your line is from Guyana or from Montserrat? yeah, your daddy's black and got roots in South Carolina, but you don't. So who is the black community? And I also get the distinction and division between recent migrants, right?
Yes.
Who people who just arrived here. And to your point, like it's unfortunate that we are pitted against one another and we allow that to be a divisive conversation because we are stronger together. Now, I also recognize the tension that exists when people come here and don't have an appreciation for the struggle of African Americans who have existed here since slavery and went through the challenges of Reconstruction, post-Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, the war on drugs, the war on crime, mass incarceration. And now here we are. And all of a sudden you show up and be like, well, what's wrong with these black folks here? Because of the way that white supremacy operates, we have internalized some of that thinking, or folks from other countries have internalized some of that thinking and have problematized black people here without having a full understanding and context for what has historically happened. And, you know, unfortunately, not to put the burden back on us, but it's somebody's obligation to share that history, to share that legacy, to share the lineage and tradition of struggle and resistance and protest, but also collaboration across both ethnic and racial lines. And so, you know, if we cannot join and rally around together against the common malady that afflicts us all, then we're doomed. And I understand that this kind of really flared up around the conversations regarding reparations and who is entitled. But, you know, absent somebody pulling out DNA and family trees and
Ancestry.
you know, yeah, ancestry.com, you know, I don't know how much of that 24% is going to be able to benefit. And because someone can't do that, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't benefit from it in some way, because they are a part of the broader Black community.
I definitely appreciate the balance there, and it's so respectfully. I think you understand this. I have teeter-tottered or balanced on understanding what you said about the history, and then understanding maybe some of the ignorance of some folks that may not understand our the struggle, the long time being here. And you're about 50-50 with going back and forth there. So thank you for that, because it I just don't know how we resolve it in a manner that gets back, and I'll get us back on track, that talks about, you said before when we were talking about the historical context of the Urban League, let's just pay homage to our good brother, your predecessor, Darnell Williams, who, how can I say this? Darnell, not saying that you don't, you and Darnell have different ways of utilizing media. I'll frame it like that. And so you spoke to it a little bit, and I'll ask you a twofold question here. When I know leadership change, but that's one leader, one organization, Rahsaan. When did we start to erode or allow the erosion of the consequences? There seems to be no perception that there are any consequences, that when and if you don't abide by what we're demanding, saying, when did that hit me? The Monday after the announcement, not Martin Luther King Day, the week after that. And I sat here and realized that there was no coalesced entity, not as much as I fuss about silos. I would have rather called you, Toy Burton, I don't know, Darren Howell, and said, yo, y'all went to the mayor and y'all didn't bring, us with, I would have rather had that convo than nothing, than a perception in the public of nothing. When did it erode? And then do you understand, and you kind of spoke to it, but the sort of expectation of, these civil rights, as you said, organizations? Or do you share that it's, I'm sorry, do you even share that it's somewhat eroded?
I mean, I think it's changed.
Okay.
And I think that is a function of the decentralization of power within the Black community.
Hold on. Go a little bit deeper there. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so, because there are so many nonprofits, and advocacy organizations, right? Occupy Wall Street brought about this kind of leaderless organizing movement approach to addressing struggle. And from that time, and and I can't give a detailed historical
Yeah.
analysis. This is just this is my gut on it from having lived here since 1995. It's just seeing how organizations have popped up, nonprofits have popped up, people have risen up to lead marches and protests, and the press will flock to those, where before it was NAACP mobilized people. The Urban League was present at events or part of coalitions. The Black Legislative Caucus was the Black Legislative Caucus. The Black churches, not that again Black churches are a monolith, but those were sometimes the center of advocacy. And now it's just like, well, I got Twitter and a Facebook page, and I'm calling a protest, and people show up, and therefore I have power. And if somebody can mobilize 100,000 people to show up on the comments, who's the mayor going to listen to or be responsive to? But then when those moments fizzle out, and because there's no infrastructure there, how do you then mobilize the people? How do you leverage the financial power within the Black community to say, we're boycotting something, we're investing in something together? I think it aligns with kind of also coming out of Occupy, a critique of capitalist systems and structures. Not that Black folks haven't been leftist, socialist, Marxists, and there's always been people looking at solidarity economies and cooperatives. That's always existed in our community. But I think there was a greater allegiance to this idea of capitalism and being invested in it. But now you've got people who are questioning the value and worth of that. And so the kind of the diffuse leadership of multiple organizations that pop up and that the media, both social media and traditional media, are responsive to, I think has kind of drained some of the power of, again, some of the more historic organization. That's not as an excuse. I think it's just by way of explanation. And so there's a lot of work that needs to continue to happen around organizing and mobilizing and building up that infrastructure. When I was at the ACLU before taking on this role, people came to know me because I was regularly on TV, because I was a spokesperson for the ACLU on racial justice issues. So whenever there was a civil liberties issue, they'd reach out to the ACLU. We also had a comms team of about 4 people. And, so content could be created. Social media was leveraged. Press was regularly reaching out. That takes resources to do. And again, not by way of excuse, but by way of explanation, maybe.
Explanation and facts. And that's real because, there's an impact. I presume you may get some federal funding, maybe with the state. You are a workforce, development entity. I'll say how I perceive the Urban League here in Boston is a workforce development entity. Yes, definitely the history of coalescing and leadership. But when you mention resources, we talk about balance. You got to function and move where your board and your funding, supports your salary. And you did, mention individual versus in your role. With that, Rahsaan, and you kind of spoke to it, but I want to ask directly, I believe you understand the outcry. Has there been any conversation? Are you in conversation with the board or others on how the Urban League, not reacts, responds to the past and how it will function in the present and future? How do you answer that?
Yeah, we're currently going through a strategic planning process. The National Urban League, which we have a renewed and strengthened relationship with that we hadn't previously had, has a national campaign, the D3 campaign: defend democracy, demand diversity, and defeat poverty. And that kind of informs our work here in Boston, or in Eastern Massachusetts, you know, our mission is to enable people to overcome racial, social, and barriers and economic inequities, and you know, get people to employment and economic development opportunities, and that comes through our programmatic work, like you mentioned, through workforce development and entrepreneurship programs and youth STEM education programs for college or career readiness, or mental health work, or voter engagement and registration. And all of that work is funded by grants or state funding. And the time of the people who run those programs are funded by those grants. And so when we look towards organizing, mobilizing community, what is funding that time? And so a lot of the time that I spend going to the state house to advocate for passing of certain laws, or going to meetings of Black leaders, nobody's writing a check for that time. And not to say that the only way, you know, we do stuff is because somebody wrote a check to do it. But when I have an obligation to keep the lights on and manage and run these programs, my time also has to be spent on raising money and ensuring that the programs are operating and that the outcomes are being delivered. And you know, there are only so many hours in the day, and I think I do my best, and some of the staff do their best, and some of the membership that we are regrowing try to be engaged. For instance, Brandon Ransom is the president of the Young Professional Network. He's doing an amazing job rebuilding that auxiliary organization to have that kind of advocacy arm. But there are practical constraints around time and resources. Again, not by way of excuse, but by way of explanation. So it's not like we scared hiding because we don't want the smoke, but it's just like we've got to be strategic about the resources that we have, when to leverage them to get the biggest bang for our buck. Because if we're always showing up saying this is wrong, this is racist, there comes a point, because the lack of ability to mobilize people, the folks are just going to be like, well, you always say that. And so I think we've got to do a better job of engaging and educating the community, but also, you know, working with community to support the efforts and initiatives that they are engaged in, and finding the resources and the support to fund that advocacy work, while at the same time funding the programmatic work that we do.
It is, Rahsaan, listen, someone that just paid their rent on the 8th, someone that's, you know, I understand it's a labor of love, but Marv Neal from one of the other Black platforms, Urban Heat, said it's a labor of love, but it's not for free. You spend gas to, you know, go to that meeting. You have time away from your family that, you know, you going to a meeting or doing other things. So we definitely get that part. It's just that, and I like how you said it's not a way of excuse, but explanation, because, and I'll take it to the word, Bishop, and all that getting understanding. And I think that as much as I'm a middler. I know the things of old, but understand, you know, where we are in a new space. And so I thank you for appreciating the outcry and then also giving us the explanation. And as you said, we'll wrap sort of this part up because I want to talk about what Urban League is doing. As you said, we are challenged but strengthened. And I think that, so as you said, you're not avoiding smoke. You're just moving strategically. Last question on this part. Do you believe that the last couple of months will heavily influence the current draft of your strategic plan for going forward?
Not necessarily. I think the last several months, and both nationally
And yeah.
globally, nationally, and locally, I feel like the strategic, and you know, I don't know that there's any secrets here, but people might not know we're kind of in a turnaround period financially, coming out of the pandemic, an interim period where Dr. Keith Motley came in, stabilized the organization, managed it through the pandemic, but the programs were weaker than they had once been. The funding was diminished than it had historically been. And so kind of rebuilding capacity. And that's what the plan really is how do we strategically build infrastructure and capacity to get back to our motto, empowering communities and changing lives? How do we build the infrastructure and support so that our workforce development programs are placing people in jobs in the tech sector, in the health sector, in the finance industry? How are we ensuring that our kids are going to college? And we recently gave out three $15,000 scholarships to kids who were in our programs that are STEM majors in college now. So we needed to figure out how we can build the infrastructure and some scaffolding around that so that the advocacy, that D3 campaign, defend democracy, demand diversity, defeat poverty, actually means something on the ground. And so the recent events will put a renewed emphasis on making sure that our theory of change, which is, we are dealing with people who are looking for these services, and based on their experiences, that informs our advocacy that leads to systems change, that there'll be a renewed or refined sense of why it is important to do that. But I don't think it changes the framework of the strategic plan that we're building now or finalizing now.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to acknowledge Brother Lawrence. His Instagram name is Live Greasy, very known, activist out there. And he asked a question and then you answered it. He responded and saying nice. His question was, what are they doing to update the jobs when the job market changes? I think in the midst of him asking that, you talked about the AI and the STEM. It is, where's my time? Okay. So
10:34.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The other question I wanted to ask, I wanted to go back to thank you for coming, because what I heard from you there is every part of the Urban League of Eastern Mass right now is in a sort of recalibration. And it's not just this advocacy coalescing piece. I'm saying this, you're not. You're just making sure that the doors stay open and that people are paid and you ain't got to lay nobody off. And I understand that in the role of the CEO. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. Where do we go from here, Rahsaan? And then I'll and you can build in what the Urban League is doing, but also speak to sort of the macro of Black Boston, your opinion, where do we go from here to be able to advocate in a manner that when that advocacy is put forward, it does come with consequences. And I mean, maybe that's a whole nother sort of political after dark conversation, but where do we go from here, sir?
Where we go is civic education. They said, scriptures tells us that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. My wife, Sister Trinette Hall, in Brockton, is an amazing community organizer, and she has created the Brockton Civic School, which is a resident-led community public engagement and education organization where residents of the city of Brockton learn about how municipal government works. What do these different boards and commissions do? What is the hearing schedule? What is the city council responsible for? What do they actually have authority to do? They read through the city charter and do public education sessions to educate people on civic responsibility and local governance. There needs to be more of that because people have expectations of lawmakers or the government that sometimes they're reasonable to have, but the particular complaint is targeted at the wrong location, or we don't recognize the leverage and the power that we have as residents and voters. And I think there was so much time spent on telling people you need to register to vote. You need to register to vote. You need to vote. This is the most important election in our lifetime. And then people vote and this catastrophe happens. And they'll be like, well, why should I care about registering and voting? Because you didn't get the rest of the lesson, which is to stay engaged and to leverage your community power to hold the people you elected accountable to the demands of your community and the needs that you have and make it clear who they work for. And with And absent that type of education, and again, there is a lack of infrastructure around making sure our community gets that education, but absent that education and engagement consistently, not just around the election cycle, we're going to continue to find ourselves in this situation. And then I think the other piece of this is creation of wealth in our community, and not from the perspective of we need to be a bunch of Black capitalists, because the problem with capitalists, the predatory capitalism, is even if you're a Black capitalist, somebody's got to get exploited. And so how do we have equitable financial well-being in our communities so that everybody eats, right? We just can't go out and flip properties to be homeowners to have passive income while we're exploiting people and charging exorbitant rents and not doing anything to bring value to the community. But what does it mean to have equitable financial well-being, to bring those financial resources to the businesses, the economic drivers of the economy in our community, so that we can back candidates? So when somebody doesn't do what we elected them to do, we have the funds to marshal together a coalition to get them out and put in the person who's going to do the thing that we need to get done in our community. And so that is the sips coffee, sips Java, sips tea. That is what we need. That is what we need to be doing. And look, I'm not saying anything that anybody else hasn't said.
Right.
I'm just parroting it because I understand it and I believe it. But that is the work that's moving forward. That needs to happen moving forward.
Got you. One last question there. Where, you mentioned holding our electeds accountable. There's always this notion and commentary about it's their job to do the civic education. I think you would agree. Okay, what difference the DA makes? Yes, you were ACLU. We'll take you out of it. Myself, others. There were a lot of people that are residents, to your point earlier, that had jobs, that were doing other things, and there was no compensation for that. There's this notion that elected officials, and I had this while you were talking. I had this thought while you were talking, rather. When you talk about these now various organizations that have come up and risen and things like that, some of them have civic engagement, anti-racism, anti-poverty in their mission statement. And I just don't know if, how can I frame this? Rahsaan, you see me stuck in real time. Where's Yabu? This is a struggle for a question. They're paid to do this stuff, but there isn't, I am not aware of demonstration of impact. I'll frame it like that. And so I guess a little bit of maybe it's commentary and question is a lot of that civic education haphazardly, you did say consistently, but a lot of residents end up, jumping in. Carlos, you said something earlier about defining the roles and budget and stuff. Stephanie Everett hit me yesterday and said she sent me a nice little text, about things. And so I agree with that. It's just, like you said, we haven't, remember the Citizens Campaign? Myself, Julia, some other people, some years ago, we basically were running, we took a campaign model and ran the community as a candidate. And in full transparency, life happens and we weren't able to see it. I wasn't able to see it through as the visionary of that. And as you said that, my idea comes back, okay, we got to do the Citizens Campaign again, but I got to keep my lights on. I got to pay rent. I got to, where does that education fall? And I'll end with that. And we can talk about what's coming up with the Urban League. Where does the leaderful that came out of the BML movement, thank you for reminding us about the Occupy being a part of that too. Where does the leaderful action happen balance with the old school model of leadership? Where does this happen?
I don't know.
When I
said, I took all this time to formulate this question.
When I tell you I love you, because people will respect that answer more than you up there twiddling your bow tie and trying to make up some BS. Let's keep it 100. And dude, I appreciate you, because that is the thing that I think we need to be real about in these conversations. And let me just say, there are conversations happening. I'll say this right now. In the siloed conversations, part of the conversation is not being siloed, as there are multiple things going on. So this isn't a one and done conversation, but I can't express the gratitude because you did not have to, come in and sort of, and so Rahsaan, I do appreciate it. As I get ready to try to let you go, as it's 10:42. And please give my best to Natalie.
Yes.
I got it right this time, right?
Yes.
That's an insider. What else is going on at the Urban League in the programming? Anything coming up? There was a brother Milton asked, how do you join? Is there membership?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, all of the right questions. Membership, you can go to our website, ulem.org, Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, ulem.org. Membership is annually $75. We have two auxiliary organizations, our guild and our young professional. That is the coordinated work of our volunteers. You mentioned we've got an event tonight, Brown's Promise, looking at the aftermath of school desegregation and the ongoing work that needs to happen as a result of de facto segregation that exists in this city and others. March 24th, we have a book club as a part of our Black Male Mental Health Initiative. We're reading the book I Wish My Dad, looks at the relationships between fathers and son. We have Brother Craig Aarons Martin, who is facilitating a two-part conversation on the 24th and the 27th. March 30th, we're having the Urban League Day on the Hill. We're going up to Beacon Hill to express the need to get support for our continued funding so we can do our workforce development training, our youth STEM education, our mental health work in the community, working with our early stage entrepreneurs. All of that needs to be funded. The week of April 16th is Boston Tech Week. We're looking at having a conversation about the intersection of AI and communities in the margins and what that means, and looking at how some of the programming that we have, our MSIMBO programming, that's teaching people how to leverage AI for career advancement, how it's impacted by this rapidly evolving technology. April 28th, we're having a estate planning workshop where people can learn about the importance of estate planning, having a trust and a will, because the loss of wealth in our community is tremendous because people have not created trust or don't have a will. How many times have we seen a GoFundMe to help bury somebody and take care of their expenses? We need to deal with that. And last but certainly not least, and two more things. May 9th, we're having our gala. We're honoring some wonderful people: Quincy Miller, Wendell Knox, Darlene Lombos, Renee Dozier, Janae Nelson, some amazing women from the unions. June 4th, we have I think it's our 15th annual job fair at the Reggie Lewis Center. So we're out here, we're doing work. We're not everywhere, but we're a lot of places, and we got a lot of work to do. And it's the support of the community and the belief in this 106-year-old civil rights organization that has not gone anywhere, that will continue to have an impact in our community. We're here for the long haul, but we need the support of the community. As we are held to account by community, we will continue to show up.
I want to just acknowledge a couple of things, and thank you. You did a whole calendar. One of the questions in reference to that is there a graphic? If you can have Natalie or someone get me something, I'll post it with all those dates. I will say to you, Lawrence, that I can't do it on Instagram, but if you go to my James page on Facebook, I put a link to the Urban League, and all of that should be there for those events. Also, Rahsaan, there is an ask from a Michelle Henson.
Yay, Michelle.
Well, she wants she wants a little more activity out in the Brockton area. Is that in your catchment? Okay.
Yeah. So the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, from my calling, is Worcester to P-Town. Practically speaking, we're right here in the heart of Nubian Square. But and here's the other thing: all of the programming that we offer, whether it's workforce development, entrepreneurship, it's free.
Yep.
We're not charging people to get these certificates. We're not charging people to learn this particular trade or get an HVAC certification from Franklin Cummins Tech. Like, we're not charging for that. But it's basically, can you get to our office. So we're trying to expand our geographic reach. We've done some advocacy in Brockton around the schools, and are going to be trying to do some things with like getting people resources. It's continually ongoing. You know, we feed folks with turkeys and give away toys, and feed communities. Several initiatives like that, working with seniors. The Healthy Ride initiative, where we were giving free rides to seniors for health related events. Like, those are the things that we do.
Yes,
And so we're trying to spread the geographic reach of that, but got to build it so it's scalable.
the sustained scalability. That's what I heard from you today. The acknowledgement and understanding of wanting to see a different demonstration around the policy of Black agenda sort of piece, but then also you're someone that a year, not even just over a year, getting ready to
Oh,
approach.
it'll be 3 years this June.
Time flies by
Help
fast.
me,
And I was
Holy
trying to
Ghost.
give you look. I was trying to
Time
give you a
flies.
little bit of grace. You could have said
You
just
see
a little
all
bit over
this?
that.
See
But
all
no,
this?
it's as I want to share with you what Lawrence said too, because the respect that I had when you said, I don't know. What he said here was, where is it? Smart people. Where is it? Smart people know. Oh, smart people know when and what they don't know. You know what I mean? So that's just a different level of respect. Oh Jesus, he would pop in here at the end. Calvin, we
Yeah,
mentioned you
troll
earlier.
up.
He is the troll. He is the troll of all trolls that needs to start a t-shirt business. Because every time I see him do this, I'm like, I'm probably going to want that t-shirt. But
Yeah,
Calvin,
right.
we mentioned you earlier as a co-founder of the name for Rahsaan that we gave him, Bishop Political. So, brother, thank you for being here with us today. I'm sorry we went a little bit over time, but I think
That's all good. Thank you for the opportunity.
yes, sir, because we understood the piece about the organization, but we also got an understanding of what you're doing, and also understanding that you're in a place of like recalibration for sustainability. So,
Yes.
brother, thank you, and please give the
You're
wife my
welcome.
best, and we'll talk soon. And if you
All
ever
right,
get
thank
ready
you,
to
sir.
get rid of any bow ties, even though I don't wear them as much, keep it. Now that's a tied one, right?
Don't disrespect me like that.
I'm not.
Sir.
I'm
Sir.
no. I'm
Sir.
okay. Yes, sir. Okay.
You gonna make me untie, don't you?
No. Don't do that. You probably got to get ready to go into a meeting, man. Don't do that. Listen, you do that at the end of the day when you in the car and you're like, oh, you got this across the line. So, brother, thank you. And I'll be in touch. And please have
Okay.
Natalie send me stuff and we'll put it out there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, brother. For real. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed and got some understanding and information today. I have to keep saying that I really appreciate Rahsaan coming in to the Java Cafe. We, haven't always done well at graceful, accountability, but even to, his counterpart and, some other folks in organizations, we can have the conversation and come. And while there may be some sentiment that you don't got to, who's Jimmy? We ain't got to go on there. That's fine, but go somewhere or at least be responsive to the ask. So I'm going to get ready to wrap up. We are back tonight, and I think this subject is so apropos with what we're going to discuss this evening with a psychotherapist by the name of Ayala. She's an Afro-Latina sister who is a recent licensed clinician. I'm telling y'all now, because I know y'all tonight, she's not accepting new patients individually right now, but she does some group work right here in the city of Boston. And she's coming tonight to talk with us about, liberated mental health. We're going to talk about and identify, as I mentioned to Dr. Fumi yesterday, that in our tribal and cultural practices, there is some maintenance of mental wellness that has went on for centuries. Some of the addressing of the mental illness in our cultures, we have room for improvement, but that's the topic for tonight at 8 p.m. with Sister Ayala. And forgive me for not having her last name ready, but I talked to her the other day and I'm excited about this conversation because, as I said to Rahsaan, and I don't want to be a pessimist and I haven't talked like this in a while, but if you're paying attention to what's going on in the Middle East as far as resources, supplies, right now we're finishing out winter, thank God. But oil has went up, gas has went up. There are a lot of other goods that come from that side of the world that need to get here or contribute to other things created in other parts of the world that eventually end up here. The mayor, the governor, Ayanna Pressley, others for months have been saying we have not seen the worst of the impact of what's going on nationally. So, Jimmy, what are you saying? Put some cash aside. Pick up a little couple of cases of water bottles. Get you a little, I ain't going to promote one brand. Get a generator. I rather get pushback of being a pessimist than versus 4 months from now, we scrambling. So I'll just leave that right there. Thank you. My manager's in the building. Ayala Watson is going to be with us this evening at 8 p.m. So please keep everything in mind that Rahsaan said today. And just before we get ready to go, let me give you this reminder about another resource available to you.
Know Better, Live Better is a community-centered campaign connecting people of color to HIV prevention, testing, treatment, and sexual health care without judgment and without pressure. Right here in our community. And there are many other sites ready to support you too. Because care should meet you where you are. And knowledge should feel empowering.
Visit lesbegayurbanfoundation.org/live better to see all care sites and get connected.
Please make sure you share that information and make sure you consider attending on the 28th. I think that is it for us today. 6:30 tonight, I will be at Boston Neighborhood Network News for Talk of the Neighborhoods with Brother Dave Halpert in the 6:30 hour. I will share that link. The flyer is already up. And I think that is it. So I'm not going to do my usual Thursday departure because we'll be back tonight at 8 o'clock. All right. May 16th, save the date of May 16th for the 5th annual Joseph R. Java with Jim, Your Healthy Java, Joseph R. Betancourt Health Fair. And this year, for those that pre-register, registration opens on April 3rd. If you pre-register and show up and check in, you are automatically entered. When you check in as a pre-registrant, in your bag, there will be a ticket. You're automatically entered into a $100 gift card raffle. Then, first year we gave out, I actually went to get the TV and it wouldn't fit in the car. So I just did a $700. I think I did a $700 Best Buy gift card. And Sister Asia and Brother Raymond won the TV. Last year, and I think the year before, we gave out $1,000 cash. For the 5th anniversary, and I asked the community about this and also a couple of doctors, do we want to give out one $5,000 prize or do we want to give out 5 $1,000 prizes? And everybody said 5 $1,000. So on May 16th, and for this one, obviously you got to be pre-registered or registered. You can register on site on the 16th. Then you'll get a passport. We have close to 30 health and human service providers, mostly health, from dental to oncology and cancer to prostate to renal with diabetes to blood pressure checks. We have nurses and doctors in the building. You're going to have to go see and chat with them and get the number one priority of this health fair is information. Now, do I know that we'll come and participate if we know we got a chance to win $1,000? Mm-hmm. And I don't have no qualms with it. As long as you walk out with some information, y'all know it's anniversary time and I get real sensitive. People have walked out with information. I remember Dr. Rick Lee in his medical, how they write, gave a note to a person and they took that back to their doctor. we have identified practices within a couple of community health centers to where they're, changing some of their practices because we've had 2 men come in 1 year and the next year, and they were told by this same health entity that they didn't need to be screened. Huh? So there's impact there. Um, Plan to come May 16th. The date, not the date, the location will be announced soon. Matter of fact, I have to nudge somebody because I'm trying to be on top of it this year, y'all. All right, I'm rambling. That's it. Couple of comments, and we will see you guys tonight at 8 o'clock. Dina said, please make sure people are at the tables for the entire event. At some tables were empty, so I couldn't get stamps. Yes, Dina, we will make sure that the tables are always manned, but you wouldn't get it. Well, okay, got you. Got what you're saying. I was going to say you wouldn't get a stamp if you're not there, if they wasn't there, but that's why they should be there. So understood, sister. Understood. Well, Dina, this year I might be reaching out to ask for a little bit of help. All right, I'm going to wrap up. Can you do the knees in the back this year? Pretty please. Do the knees in the, what is that, Miss Teresa? Oh, you mean have orthopedics there? Bye, Miss Teresa. Sharon Cornelius, I walked out with the health information that I needed. So my good friend, Dr. Andrea Reed. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Dina. All right, folks, I'm wrapping up and we will see you. Y'all going to get an hour today. I can't do 2 more minutes. We'll see you tomorrow. I will see you tonight. If you're watching on BNN at 6:30, and then we'll see you tonight also at 8 p.m. Have a great day, everybody. And remember to stay thankful.